So that in case. Okay, thank you. I'll quickly delve into the presentation. It will take about 20 odd minutes, and then you can ask your questions if you have any. Uh, okay. So the agenda for today we have is we particularly want to share why we are focusing so much on citizen data, and then what is the collaborative on citizen data, and particularly the major work that has been done so far under the collaborative is the development of the Copenhagen framework. So we want to just give you a glimpse of the kind of work that we do, and then why joining this collaborative effort, what kind of contributions you can make, kind of engagements that are available in terms of contributions, and then your question and answers. So, firstly, why citizen data? We we have all talked a lot about the Sustainable Development Goals, the data needed to monitor the Sustainable Development Goals, but it's often the case that we have a lot of data gaps. We are not having 100% data or information to inform the SDGs. And we know very well that our SDG 2030 agenda is about achieving all these goals by 2030, and we are in 2024 with no data, some of the indicators. And it becomes imperative for us to explore different and all forms of data, and which is where citizen data comes in. And one of the non-traditional forms of data, we say that so because it is not yet formalized, or it is not yet structured into the systems, or it's not institutionalized as of yet. And that's the reason we want to focus and bring it to the limelight and get it integrated into the official statistics. So that's the reason why we want to tell so much. It is to inform the SDGs as one of the major reasons. It is a process which involves open, inclusive, participatory, and transparent data collection and production and use for all people. And we want to leverage this inclusivity in informing all the data uh, uh, informing the SDGs. The second place where it really helps is in the development of national reviews. And one of the key messages that we hamper around national reviews is drawing on contributions from indigenous people, civil societies, the private sector, and all other stakeholders. So the citizen data really helps enable do that. And it is nothing about us without us, unless the marginalized communities, uh, the indigenous communities, the uh, the the segments, all the segments of the society have been heard and counted and represented. The data doesn't speak. And this is often the case, or one of the gaps in traditional data sources, where some of the segments of the society are left behind. And we want to leverage using citizen data, fill in these gaps into the traditional data forms. So, as I've already mentioned, citizen data has a lot of benefits, mainly coming into the inclusivity, the transparency, the involvement of the society, and the responsibility, giving the responsibility in the hands of citizens in informing the official statistics. The reason are quite compelling, and that's one of the major reasons why citizen data is on the focus. I want to delve on three case studies that we have come across, and we found them very interesting. Um, the citizen data was used in supporting indigenous communities in Kenya. This helped in the data collection, where generally these communities are left behind. It helped improve access to maternal and child health services in Kenya through more ward development, equipment, and skilled health personnel in those areas. So it enhanced collaboration between traditional birth attendants, the community health volunteers, and the skilled health personnel. So it brought together the entire communities in improving the SDG goal on health. Second example is on Colombia. The Foundation for Free Free Press. It promotes the freedom of expression of speech in Colombia and the rights of citizens. So through their involvement, they as a CSO, they have contributed tremendously in collaboration with the National Statistics Office of Colombia, DANE, to support in producing estimates for SDG indicator 16.10.1, which is on informing the number of um, impeachments towards the rights of citizens. So this has informed Goal 16, which is on peace, justice, and strong institutions. The third example I wanted to highlight is on empowering and engaging citizens of Albania. This is focusing on ending violence, which is SDG 5, on gender equality, specifically on indicator 5.2. What what Albania National Statistics Office did while collecting data for violence against women survey was they involved the local governments, the CSOs, and service providers throughout the data value chain, which is beginning from the stages of survey design to the data collection and dissemination. So by doing so, what happened is it empowered the citizens. Three major outcomes have emerged out of it. One is new type of violence were identified because they involved citizens and they were able to understand that sexual harassment and stalking, issues like dating violence, non-partner violence were quite rampant in their area, and these should be included in the survey. So this was during the design stage. Open discussions between police and CSOs have helped why they have different impressions with regards to violence against women and with regards to different data sources. Similarly, there has been collaboration with the CSOs and the local governments, which improved the survey dissemination. Earlier, these surveys were just laying in the offices of the National Statistics offices, but with the collaboration, the information reached out to further communities and improved the awareness of the violence going around in the area. So these were some three compelling case studies that we wanted to highlight and showcase the power of citizen data that it has, that it can bring to the societies at the grassroots level. Delving into the second agenda item, which is on the collaborative on citizen data, what is this? It is a community or a partnership or a collaboration of communities, CSO partners, national statistics offices, human rights institutions, academia, regional as well as the international organization. So this was established in 2023. It is mainly the discussions had actually started in 2022 in way back in Bangkok, where the importance and the need for the collaborative was discussed. While in 2023, at the UN Statistical Commission, this was formally operationalized. The collaborative on citizen data gave birth. Um, and now we are in 2024. A quick glimpse that in the year of 2024, the collaborated together brought in, developed the framework on citizen data. And now in 2025, the framework is being finalized. So that's where the first point comes in, which says that the development and the finalization of Copenhagen framework. We named it Copenhagen because it was presented in Copenhagen. So the framework on citizen data was almost finalized during the period. Um, Also, during the period, what we did is we provided a space to share knowledge, resources, and experiences. So we came in all together to share our experiences. These country case studies are coming from all the uh, uh, all the partners in the collaborative. Uh, there were strong collaborations. In fact, right now there are ongoing discussions in terms of taking forward various types of work, such as building guidance, building grassroots level work in developing citizen data, providing a platform for advocacy and mobilization of relevant stakeholders. Similarly, identify concepts and methodological gaps that can further improve. Various types of guidance need not be just particularly on citizen data. It has more further elaborate needs under citizen data. It is a broader umbrella that we are looking at. So, over the period, these are the areas that we were able to focus on. Moving forth, we would plan further disaggregation into the work that is showcased here. But before I delve into, I just wanted to give you the names of the organizations that are in the collaborative at the moment who form the steering committee. These are 10 organizations. At the first 2 years, the collaborative was chaired by United Nations Data Statistics Division and UN Women, and now the chair is is ro- is rotating, which means that every 2 years there is a new chair, and currently it is UNSD and the International Civil Society Center. So this is where we are at the moment, and we are more than happy to welcome more members into the collaborative. Now, delving into the major work that the collaborative was able to achieve over the past 1 year was the Copenhagen Framework on Citizen Data. The reason that this was so important was because we have noticed that there are so many different definitions, different understanding around citizen data. You are very well aware it is known as citizen generated data, it is known as citizen science, it is known as participatory approach. There are different names and different definitions around the world. We wanted to bring in some kind of formalization, some kind of conceptualization, and that was the reason why there was a need for this framework to make it more formal, so that it can be easily integrated into the official statistics. This was identified in Bangkok 2022. Um, and by doing so, it led to positive transformation. It kind of provided a segue in building a tool which is more inclusive in terms of data production as well as use. It raised awareness. There is a lot of work going on citizen data, and this is not new. CSOs, NGOs have been doing producing citizen data from way 1990s, but I think by formalizing or doing this through the collaborative, we are able to raise more awareness, encourage responsible production and use of citizen data, and this is guided by the principles. So when I will actually explain you the Copenhagen framework, some of the parts is the sections, it has principles in it which encourages not only developing data but also in an ethical and a moral manner, defining a role that NSOs must play in encouraging and in accepting citizen data, and contributing to integrating citizen perspectives in broader discussions. So with this view, the framework was developed. Over the period, as I mentioned, the reason why it is important was discussed in 2022 in Bangkok. In March 2023, this mandate was made at the UN Statistical Commission, and in April, the formal collaborative was formed. In September 2023, where there was this experts group meeting, the Copenhagen framework was developed, which is a draft, and this draft was presented in March 2024 at the UN Statistical Commission. And currently, which also had a third experts group meeting in New York this July, where the framework was strengthened further from the feedback coming from all stakeholders, including NSOs, including CSOs. And now it is being revised. It will be presented next coming March in 2025 as a final version of the framework. The framework has five major sections into it. First is the operational definition that we want to give, bring the citizen data understanding to a one level. Second is the principles that guide in the production and the use of the citizen data. Third, the role of NSOs, because we find this very important because we want the acceptance of citizen data into the official statistics, but also to inform the traditional data. For instance, there are surveys, ongoing surveys of government, where we want citizen data to complement their data in understanding the nuances of further information in informing their official statistic. So we find the role being a very important aspect, which was included recently in the revision coming from the feedback in the meetings. Fourth, there should be an enabling environment. However strong the framework might be, we have to build a conducive environment for all the stakeholders to come together. That's the fourth section. And finally, the roadmap in how to implement this framework. Firstly, on the operational definition, we wanted to keep it very simple and straightforward. It refers to data originated from initiatives where citizens are engaged at various stages of the data value chain, guided by key principles that promote inclusive, responsible, professional, and ethical production use, regardless of whether or not these data are integrated into official statistics. So the motivation is to be integrated into official statistics, but it does not mean that we do not want to produce data if it is not integrated. We want very strong and ethical data available to inform various policies, but as well as programmatic actions. So that doesn't mean that it has to be a national data. This has two main aspects to the definition. One is the participation of citizens. The framework says that it has to be a sufficient and meaningful participation of citizens, which means that involving citizens just for the namesake is what we are avoiding. We want citizens to be strongly inherited in the process, which means that it the level of participation should be somewhere around partnerships or a strong role in designing the survey questions or implementing or collection of the data. So, one of the major aspects of the definition is striving the highest degree and quality of involvement of citizens. Secondly, around the stages of data value chain that citizens are engaged, we don't want them to be just uh, participating stakeholders. We want them involved throughout the entire citizen data value chain, especially into the design and the collection phases where there is the major uh, influence that citizens can make in the collection process. The third section that we spoke about was the principles of citizen data. As uh, we are very well aware, we all are very well capable of develop of designing and collecting information, but are we doing it in a principled manner? So these are the 13 principles that were identified, which guide in the collection and the use of citizen data. So I'm just going to read out, but I'll not delve much into it. We want the data to be independent of any political pressure or any other donor pressures. It has to be relevant and timely. It is, I mean, we all understand the importance of data at the right time and the right place. So we need that relevancy available. There should be meaningful participation of citizens. There should be informed consent. It involves confidentiality of data. Professional standards are adhered to, which means that the data quality is maintained, the data security is maintained. It's ensured that the data is not used for wrong purposes. The self definition and self identification should be enabled. For instance, this is especially important when we are dealing with indigenous people, people who identify themselves as indigenous people. That's where self identification comes into play. The data sovereignty needs to be there. There needs to be transparency and accountability of data, ethical and safe production of data, especially relevant while collecting sensitive data such as violence against women or human rights data. The privacy of data and data attrition, as well as the openness and accessibility of data, should be enabled. The fourth section, the role of national statistics offices. As I said, this is a section which was included in the new revised framework, given the importance the NSOs have uh, in formalizing, but also in building the communities or encouraging the communities and producing more such data. So NSOs would definitely have three types of citizen data with regards to them. One is the citizen data that is directly integrated into the official statistics. Second is the citizen data that is complementing the official statistics, but perhaps is not integrated into official statistics. The third one being other efforts, the other independent efforts, regardless of it is integrated or not, but definitely those efforts can perhaps are not informing now, but maybe would inform later or in the development of policies. Somewhere it can dev- uh, directly inform the work that NSOs are doing. So we identify NSOs as data stewards and trust brokers. So we want them to support a data culture that upholds strong methodologies in data generation and use. And by doing so, which means we are producing quality data, it maintains a professional standard, guidelines for, it also provides some guidelines for citizen data. We want NSOs to build capacities, fund capacities, foster partnerships, promote the value of citizen data, and advocate for integrating it into the official statistics and national planning. So, with these importance that the NSOs have, there's a dedicated section on how they can encourage and include citizen data into their institutions or into their blood vein, if I may say. The fourth section being the enabling environment, as we see that the we have understanding of what the operational definition is, how the data should be collected through the guided principles, how NSOs are encouraged. Now we want to build that conducive environment where all the stakeholders are coming together, a whole of society approach to data. So we're trying to build focus on that, how to build skills and knowledge so that everybody is capable and enabled to produce such data, build trust amongst the stakeholders, build laws, if permissible, at national level or at international level, um, some kind of principles and guidance which can regulate in promoting more citizen data governance mechanisms to be institutionalized, and include statistical and technical infrastructure to promote the incubation of citizen data. And needless to say, data quality assurance, which is very much important. And when we say data quality assurance, we say it fit for purpose, but not one size fits all, because we understand that citizen data brings this important aspect that every every type, or reaching out to all segments of the society would need different approaches, because we cannot treat the uh, the citizens who are, say, indigenous communities, cannot treat them very similar to the ones who are living in urban areas. So we want to have dedicated approaches in reaching to those segments, and have dedicated fit for purpose approaches in building and in collecting the data. And by doing so, we also adhere to a certain level of data quality, because we also want to ensure that this data, the collected data, is integrated into official statistics too. So we want to have the data quality also maintained while having different approaches in collecting data. And finally, I mean, funding is a key area, whether it in terms of capacity building or whether in terms of data collection. So that's also one of the key points that we want to highlight while enabling a conducive environment for building citizen data. And the final section is on the roadmap. What next after the development of the framework? We have identified two levels of work. One is at the global level, the kind of work that we can do, and the other being at the national, or within the national, the sub-national or the community level work that can be done. At the global level, we want to stock take the current work ongoing on citizen data at various countries. So we want to build on the existing case studies, but also what are the new upcoming work that is ongoing. So that doesn't mean that it is only about uh, the the grassroots level programmatic work alone, but it also means the existing resources on the subject, whether tools, toolkits, or training materials. We also want to uh, stock take the resources that are available on citizen data across the globe. Second is based on this, because we know every country would have a different approach in terms of citizen data. So we want to produce guidelines which enable or cross learn from each country, and help understand which is the best way forward in in a conditioned in a conditioned setup. For instance, um, in so and so situation, this is what we can do. So a guideline which is not encompassing one size fits all, but a guideline which particularly provides addresses the specific needs of the country, and provides actionable methods going forward. Thirdly, we want to have curating and synthesizing experiences, that is the impact stories coming from the countries, as I said, lessons and experiences learning from each other. Members' engagement. Yes, this is one of the things that we are currently working on, which is the community of practice, where we are exchanging knowledge from each other, bring visibility to citizen data through the hub, global level agenda setting, and connecting with countries and communities. So this is the roadmap that we have slated for the global level. At the national or the subnational level, again, conducting scoping exercises, because even within a country, there is a lot of diversity within the country. So we want to uh, bring in all the diversities into one platform. So the scoping exercises at national level. Second, being the localizing the Copenhagen framework. Third, fostering sustainable partnerships within the nation. collecting, disseminating, and using the data that we have been talking about, curating knowledge and documenting, sharing, and connecting with global level efforts, and capacity building, one of the major things that we want to focus on moving ahead. And that brings us to the end of the framework, one of the major works in the past 1 year. Now, I just want to bring back your focus onto why the collaborative on citizen data, why be part of this. We wanted to highlight some of the strengths that the collaborative has and the impact that we're able to bring on ground to encourage your onboarding and your decision making. The strengths, we ensure best use of respective expertise. So when we are working as a collaborative, we have CSOs and international organizations who come in with different expertise. So we want to leverage on their expertise and use that in informing or building more on building citizen data. Second, jointly design and implement the work program. You have seen our roadmap. So when we want to work on that roadmap, we work jointly and implement the program jointly. So it's a collaborative effort, as the name suggests. Secondly, the impact that we were able to bring so far is the framework, raising awareness, fostering partnerships at both global and national level, bringing the discussions to UN Statistical Commission since 2023. So more NSOs are embracing citizen data as of now. And I can quote here, currently the discussions are ongoing with the governments of Nepal and Malawi, where there are formal agreements coming across with after the collaborative was formed. So delving into why join the collaborative, we really want everybody's support and contribution in building more methodological work, more insights, ground level insights coming from your countries or coming from your work as an NSO or as a CSO, as a civil society partner in informing the citizen data. We want to strengthen the citizen data because more contributions can inform the diversity and the varied approaches that are available on ground. Because right now, our knowledge is limited to only the 10 organizations that are currently present. Secondly, engaging actively and contributing expertise. As I mentioned, it is all about leveraging on each other's expertise. So we want to engage the members actively and use their expertise, insights, and ideas to promote activities and discussions on the on citizen data. Finally, we also want to um, um, want a great platform and stakeholders who can help us disseminate information, share expertise, and uh, expertise also and their experiences and distribute the knowledge products that are coming out of the collaborative. Now, finally, how can you engage? We have four modes at the moment. We are still working on other modes. As you onboard, maybe we can have more ideas coming from you. But at the moment, we have newsletters, which keeps all the members informed of upcoming events, learning opportunities, or other resources that are available, not just developed by the collaborative, but also the resources that are available across the globe. So we had newsletter informing everybody. Mostly the frequency is once in a month, an online community of practice, which is an informal and interactive platform for you to engage with the collaborative members. So if you're interested, you can already scan the QR code, which is shown on your screen. Third, we conduct a lot of webinars which are regularly organized to foster knowledge exchange and collaboration on these topics. And finally, the meetings that we have already seen, the first one in Bangkok, the second one in Copenhagen, and the third one in New York. let's wait and watch where the 2025 meeting is going to be. But these are the platforms that we envisage that you can engage in. With this, if you have any questions, please shoot out. But for more information, you can visit the website or write to us at citizen.data@un.org. Thank you. Let me close. I won't close the screen, but let me see if there are any chat questions on the chat.
Yeah, maybe Ramya, before you take any questions, maybe would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Sorry, I totally missed, but my name is Ramya Imandi. I work as a statistics consultant with UN Women since the past 3 years, and I have been very much involved in the collaborative on citizen data in the past 1 year. And yeah, Yongi, thank you so much. But I thought it is the focus on the collaborative, and I did not think my introduction was important, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe I'll just have a quick introduction myself. My name is Yong Yimin. I'm from the United Nations Statistical Division, where I'm also part of this the collaborative steering committee, where both the secretary and also co-chair of the group. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us.
I just have one comment. There was a list, and I can't remember how far back in the slide deck it was, but it was about the Indigenous self-identification and self-definition.
Yes, it's on the
Yeah.
principles of citizen data, right?
Yes. So I'm from Canada. I am Indigenous. We've seen a real challenge within Canada around self-identification and identity politics in the context of people who are not Indigenous self-identifying as Indigenous to obtain benefits that are available or targeted to Indigenous peoples. And I mean, I do believe self-identification is an important aspect personally for lots of reasons, but there may be a tension in that self-definition and self-identification, and I just proposing some language around maybe it's more around self-determined definition and identification, depending on which country or state um, you are working with, is just really it's like kind of if you go upstream, it's really around supporting that self-determination in how they want to identify and how they want to define themselves as Indigenous in particular when it comes to that piece. But I think that could be relevant kind of more globally as well.
Thank you. No, thank you so much, Sarah, because this is the kind of information that we are looking forth. The kind of uh, reasoning or the background information that you've provided is not known to us. And learning from the examples coming across from the countries or from your experiences can really help revise this framework. In fact, one of the uh, CSOs, ILGA World, ILGA World, I'm not sure if you've heard of them. They work very closely with the LGBTIQ plus communities, and they have also raised one of the points that while self-identification, we do not want the data that was produced be used against them because it is often the case. So I can totally get the kind of self-identification backdrop back hitbacks that it can have when you are quoting the benefits that it might have and people might wrongly identify themselves. So yes, and So which is why we say that one size doesn't fit all, and this has to be furthermore defined when we come to the national level um, definitions or national level frameworks when they are developed. So we'll keep these in mind, and we will try to incorporate the self-determined kind of definition that you are proposing. So thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Can
And
I
we
add,
also,
add
yeah, I'm sorry, I just want to add, we have this, I think last year, no, early this year, we have the first draft version of the Copenhagen framework, and now we just have a revised version. It's been, I don't know how well they, oh, yeah, thanks. And so we will welcome any comments or suggestions and you may have for the revised version of the framework.
um, thank you. Thank you for your response. Is it okay if I add another
Yes,
kind of
please.
comment? Which is I didn't hear a lot, and maybe it's kind of more in the subtext, but around governance and governing principle, data governance, data governance principles. And I'm not sure if in the integration of something like the fair and care principles might be worth mentioning as a framework, but I think some of the elements of those are integrated throughout, but just I think having a stronger voice to the governance over citizen data, um, and those principles kind of within the care and fair principles would be important to maybe emphasize a bit more strongly.
Okay. Thank you. Um, I do not really understand the fair and care principle, but I will definitely read more on that and uh, circulate this information back to the collaborative and the revision of the framework.
Yeah, it just I happen to have them handy from from another thing that I was doing earlier today, but FAIR principles are the global principles around data governance, including that they are findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable.
Mm.
Uh,
Ah, okay.
but those are not there's a tension between those fair data governance principles and in particular indigenous rights and indigenous data
Okay.
governance principles. And so the care is meant to complement the fair governance principles, care being collective benefit, authority to control, responsibility, and ethics.
Okay.
So
Thank
if
you.
you actually Google care principles for Indigenous data governance, you will get a short information sheet that helps to
Okay.
kind of just lay out what those principles are, and it speaks to the importance of data governance principles as an important component to citizen data, to data on underserved, underrepresented, equity denied populations and communities.
Yeah. I've jotted down your points. Really relevant. Thank you so much. So I'm going to relay this information back to the collaborators that are already revising. And I think we, as Yongi has mentioned, it is already up for consultations from the experts. So you can also write to us on the website that we have shared. So this is the one.
And
Uh,
maybe may I just add,
yes,
we
please.
briefly touched upon the data governance, but it didn't um, focus on this citizen data because we are consider this is one of the data sources and within the overall like a data ecosystem in this. So we can look into this to see if we need to strengthen this data governance like a message in the framework. Yeah, thank you for your the suggestion and the comments.
Also encourage, if you have more comments, to write to citizen.data@un.org. So we're able to, I mean, I'm definitely going to take your points coming from this discussion, but if you want to formally also write, we're happy to take in your points. Thank you.
Let's see, Karen, raise her hand.
Oh, yeah, thanks. And before I ask my question, I just want to emphasize, or I will say to Sarah, do write, because fair and care principles did come up in New York, and I did think they were going to be more visible. So they've been pointed out before. Um, anyway, but my question, I was wondering about what do the what do the national statistics offices, I mean, I know there's so many of them, but like, what are they saying they need? Like, I'm just curious, do they know how to handle citizen data? Do they understand the importance of data disaggregation? Do they have capacity to steward like a lot of different, really unique small data sets that might not cover the whole country? Do they have capacity to help scale things? Like, I guess I'm just curious about what they like if the plan is that they're the data stewards, like what kind of, and they're like, I mean, I'm just picturing a bunch of statisticians who have like statistician training. So like, I guess I'm just curious, um, maybe what sort of preparation do you think needs to happen with those staff?
I think it is
Yeah.
really, really good, excellent question. So maybe just let me say, the different NSO has a different level of capacity and also willingness of embrace the citizen data. But we see the trend is more and more National Statistical Office willing to work with the CSO data. For example, my colleague Howie is currently in Malawi working together with bring together the NSO and the CSO together to talk about how they can work together, how can they build a capacity. The capacity is not only one side, basically. The NSO also need to have the capacity, understand how to work with CSOs, and the CSO need to build a statistical capacity, for example, in terms of data quality, a better way to collect data, all this. So they're I think a different level of acceptance of citizen data, or what type of citizen data also the issue. Some is more willing to use this, for example, environmental data from citizens, but probably not as other domains. Some NSOs are more open to more broader topics. So there's like variations of different level of NSOs too. But the purpose of this collaborative, we just want to build the knowledge and build the tools to provide this and also different experience to different level of like a basic usage of the citizen data.
Yongi, if I may just add another, just similar to Malawi, I think I completely agree to your response that, there is a different level of acceptance across NSOs. Similarly, in Nepal, this is what I hear from Howie again, who is working very closely with Nepal. NSO. Earlier, there was a reluctance in using citizen data, but now they have very well, I would say, to a certain level, accepted citizen data, and they're working very closely with CSOs in building on violence data. So this is a good case study as well, where over the period, at least due to the collaborative, the awareness has built in NSOs to have this sort of data, especially also on the violence that Nepal is working on. There is a problem on the violence against the LGBTIQ plus community specifically. So it becomes more uh, needful to engage with the local civil societies in building this kind of data, which is not really easy to build through traditional data sources. Thanks.
Yeah, I also just want to mention that they do aware the lack of data, disaggregate data on particularly for addressing the leaving no one behind the principle of the 2030 agenda. But then they always have not excuse, but the reason of lack of resources, lack of capacity, lack of funding to collect this granular level of data for different vulnerable population group. Yeah, I also say a couple more hands and just feel free to come in. I think I say I don't know who's first, but I say Ashwani and also Jessica.
Hi, this is Astha God from NSO India. I'm actually logging in from Mr. Ashwini Kanoja's account, so that's why you see his name flipping on the screen. Yes. I'm from NSO India, and this question was regarding the slide related to principles of citizen data. Yes, yes. Point number 10, which talks about ethical and safe production and use. Um, from where I can see it, when we talk about ethical data collection, that would be one aspect, which is fine. However, when we talk about safe production and use, do you in particular mean when that data that is being, I mean, what is the context for using the term of safe production and use? Because as and when the data would be used for some sort of a policy formulation benefiting that community, would would that be called safe production and use? And when it would be used for something which might have a negative connotation, would be called um, not so safe use of the data. How would you classify safe production and use?
I think it's basically with the principle of protection of the human rights of this group and the proper use data, not use to harm. Basically, do not harm principle, and also use the data to discriminate, stigmatize or any like individual groups. So this main purpose of this ethical and safe production and use of the data.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you,
thank you.
Yonge. If I may just add just a line, Yonge is very well emphasized on the use. If I had to quote some examples for safe production, especially when we are collecting sensitive data like violence against women or gender-based violence, you will see there are a couple of WHO guidelines, for instance, that it has to be face-to-face, and then the person should be alone in the room, the person who's being interviewed. But if it is, if in crisis situation like the pandemic, if you are collecting the data remotely, then what are the uh, procedural safety requirements needed to adhere? Like, um, the nobody at the room, as well as even the child is not in the room because the child can relay the information to somebody else. So things like that we mean in the safe production of data. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you may allow, can I pose another question?
Please. Thank you.
Yes. So this was regarding the guidelines that you were talking about, where you had showed in the roadmap, and you were talking about at the global level, there is an effort to come up with the guidelines for citizen-generated data. And if I may correctly connect, you'll be presenting it in March 2025, if that is what the scenario is. Um, am I right on this?
Yes,
No,
the framework.
the Copenhagen framework will be presented to the UN Statistical Commission
Okay.
and for endorsement in March. And the guideline
Okay.
probably will develop over the years. It's probably we will not have the guidelines soon.
Okay. Okay. So are we on any front? Do we have any draft guidelines available so far?
I think we can compile. There's some different guidelines for, but I think your women has some guidelines, and different countries have guidelines, and we can put together as a compilation of different resources available.
Okay.
And the group is also currently working. I think it's in the work program of the collaborative to develop guidelines on different issues.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Miss Jessica.
Yes.
Yes, hi. Good evening, everybody. My name's Jessica, and I work with a network of citizen-generated data creators back in India. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the operational aspects of the collaborative, like how is it funded? Is there a secretariat? And is there staff that works on this in a dedicated manner? How many members are there? It would just give a little bit of a sense of the sort of scale of the operations and the potential and capacity. Thank you.
You want to take
Want to take it?
You want me to take it? Okay. So try to, okay. It's fine. To address your question, there's established, as I think Ramya mentioned in one of her slides, the collaborator is officially established in 2023 last year. So currently we have 10 steering committee, and the secretary is the UN Statistical Division, and they will have other co-chairs. One is the UN Statistical Division, and the other one is ICSC, the International Civil Society Organization. If I'm probably part.
Yes, yes, International
Yeah.
Society. Yeah.
Civil society, yeah. And so it used to be UN Women, so we jointly, and we do like each of this steering committee already have some existing activity related to citizen data, and so basically we put our resource together, and we also do fundraising and together for this area's work. So currently we have some partners that support this work. For example, the Hewlett Foundation, the Google.org support our work, but each committee member also bring their own resources, like the World Bank, UN Women, and all contribute to different area of this work. The members, we're currently basically, this is one of the initial meeting to welcome the new members. We're basic onboarding some of the new members. How many total? I don't have the number with me, but I can check with you. We hope this number continue to grow, and also hope to have a sustainability. We do have a funding and to engage also country level work in addition to global level work. I think we listed what we're going to work at the global level, and we also work with a couple of countries, at least like each of the partner has work with individual country, but the collaborate overall, we also have work with some countries. For example, this week in Malawi and last week in Nepal. So we carry out this work, but we also have work, for example, with Ghana, Kenya, Colombia, and so we also expand the country work depending on the available funding.
Hope, Jessica, that answers the question to some sorts. Thank you. I don't see any more questions, but even if others would want to reach out to us, you're free to write to the web mail ID citizen.data@un.org. We're happy to respond to your questions, any silly or any kind of questions. So happy to answer.
Yeah, also I see Pamela's message about working inclusive to persons with disabilities. So we have this in mind, and we're also trying to develop some guidelines on to addressing this issue. We work with Elizabeth from CBS to try to say to as much as possible is funding as long as the funding available. We try to have sign language for most of our meeting.
Yeah, no, I was just typing the response, similar response. And we also have the stakeholder group of persons with disabilities for sustainable development with
Yes.
us on as a steering committee member. Absolutely. Any other questions that we have not addressed, Yangi?
Let me see
And
if any.
Joan, thank you for the example from Bogota. Very well taken. We understand now the relevance and the repercussions of self-identification. Yeah, thank you, others, for sharing the resources. Thank you, Sarah, for leaving us. Bye. Hope you join us.
Thank you very much. If you have any other questions, just feel free to write to us, and then we'll try as much as possible to respond as quick as possible. Sometimes the resources are limited, but we will try to address. And I think in the next year, we do have a really good work plan and to work together with you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll stop the meeting here. Bye, bye, everyone. Thanks, Yongi.
Thank
It's
you. Thank
pretty
you.
late for you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.